Welcome to Carter Cloud, where imagination is power. Ever since the ending of the early 2000s cult classic, The Boondocks, I've constantly wondered where Aaron Magruder, the show's creator, would have taken the story. Although The Boondocks as a show wasn't typically written in chronological format, I've developed a viewer-made sequel titled The Death of Robert Freeman, which is my recount of the many events, including Robert Freeman's death and a double murder, that occurred post-season 3 and mostly disregarded season 4. All parts of this series will be in the description as well as in the cards. This particular video will basically be a short story about Uncle Ruckus, an undisputable fan favorite, based the day after the events of part 3. Also, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new installments that I add to the story, or the death of Robert Freeman. So without further ado, I present to you Nothing But Ruckus. It was Thursday, 4:13 a.m. on a fall morning. Uncle Ruckus grabbed his nunchucks from under the bed that he swung every morning as practice for his eventful job as a mall security guard. This was currently his first job of 3, although there was once a time where he'd hold down as many as 47 over the course of a week. But that was 15 years ago, and Ruckus was only getting older, while those little nigger boys he had to chase at work were getting faster. His nunchucks served him well these days, since it intimidated the annoying teenage nigger boys that attempted to boost clothes from the department stores. In the small world these little niggas lived in, all they knew was guns, shanks, and occasionally fists. But once Ruckus would pull out his nunchucks and swing them around, they usually stopped what they were doing immediately. His back began to crack as he finally lifted the heavy nunchucks from under his bed. The pain triggered his mind into a flashback of when his father, Mr. Ruckus, first brought those same nunchucks home from work one day. While stumbling out of the kitchen with his hip flask full of whiskey in his hand, Mr. spotted 12-year-old Ruckus standing outside of his room staring at the mysterious weapon that swung in his hand. Ruckus quickly stepped back into his room and closed the door behind him after reminding himself how much Mr. hated being stared at. It made him think of how the white folks at his job hated his very existence. Ruckus's attempt at avoiding a beating was null and void because not even 10 seconds passed before Mr. swung open Ruckus's door and began beating him so badly with the nunchuck that he could barely get up afterward due to the sharp pain in his back. Once Mr. was satisfied with the beating, he drunkenly dropped the beautiful wooden weapons by Ruckus's face and stumbled into his room. "Bunny!" he heard Mr. yell to his mother from their room. "Come on up in the room and get that as a pussy bitch. Whipping on Ruckus so useless ass and got my dick hard for some reason." "Oh my God, mister, you are so sick," Ruckus heard his mother say from the kitchen. Ruckus tuned him out as he was finally able to lift himself up enough to sit on his bed with his new lifelong weapon laid across his lap. For the next year, he'd practice with the nunchucks in his room by doing random movements, often hurting himself. Whenever his father caught him, as with anything he enjoyed, he'd be met with a brutal beating that came with the stench of whiskey. Ruckus checked his clock across the room to see that it was now 4:30 a.m. He cursed himself for allowing himself to doze off 2.5 hours before it was time to clock into work. "I'm no better than the average lazy coon that don't wake up till after 3:30 p.m. he muttered as he sat up on the side of his twin-sized bed that sat in the middle of his dusty, undersized room. He picked up the nunchucks by one of the chukanbu, the stick part, with his right hand and swung the opposite one underneath his left arm, which was raised directly over his left shoulder in order to catch it from behind. He then alternated hands and repeated this step about 20 times before walking to the closet to put on his mall security outfit. Although his body ached every morning, doing this little exercise always made him feel young enough to get through the day. It was 10:30 a.m. and Ruckus's head security supervisor directed him to his post near the food court. Every day, Ruckus was disgusted with the increase in interracial relationships that he'd witnessed in this very spot over the years. It angered him so much that he had become obsessive. "Oh, it pains me to see these beautiful, pure-blooded white princesses holding hands with all types of coons and Mexicans," Ruckus thought. "I can't help but be disappointed in my white community. Look at what we done allowed. They done cheated Trump out of office. We got white women getting Brazilian butt lifts trying to look like darky women. Young white boys dressing like DMX. Oh, what is the white man's world coming to? We might as well hand it over to the blacks at this rate." Drowning in his thoughts, Ruckus nearly shed a tear before spotting a large crowd of young black men wearing excessive jewelry and designer clothes. There were 3 in the front of the small crowd that were about twice the size of Ruckus himself. "A big old group of monkeys and gorillas," Ruckus thought to himself. "The gorilla niggas must be the security." Niggas don't need security, security need to be for the niggas. The entourage was headed in the direction of the jewelry store across from Uncle Ruckus's post. 1054. Uncle Ruckus said into his walkie-talkie to inform his co-workers of the dangerous group of nigger boys and nigger giants running rampant in the white man's beautiful mall. We got a dangerous group of shiny necklace-wearing apes headed straight for the jewelry store.
I told you before, Ruckus.
His main supervisor responded from his office.
Racial profiling is not prohibited.
So you want these darkies to destroy the very fabric of what makes the white man's establishment so great? Ruckus emotionally interrupted. Even though I know it's an Indian or Pakistani fella behind the counter, I can never really tell the difference. But my point still stands.
Jesus Christ, Ruckus.
The supervisor replied before Ruckus disregarded him and followed behind the entourage as they walked one by one into the store's wide doorway. Hey, homie, what y'all ignorant ass niggas doing in this here fine establishment? Ruckus heard a man say from the other side of the crowded store. He had the voice and vernacular of a darky, but it was as if this stranger took the words right out of his mouth. Yeah, no, this ain't no establishment for niggas like y'all. The man continued. The flea market only about 30 minutes away. And ain't for you to tell us where to shop at, Charlie, said one tall member of the entourage who seemed to be the leader. On phone them, that be your problem, gang. Your goofy ass do too much talking. And I'ma keep running my motherfucking mouth till somebody make it to where I can't run it no more, the man retorted even more loudly. Ruckus was in awe. It was as if this man was volunteering to do his job for him. But he couldn't allow that. That would make him no better than the black, ignorant excuses for coworkers that call out from work every weekend. While the mysterious man and the leader of the entourage were arguing, Ruckus began to push and force his way through the crowded store until he could finally see the man who was standing up to the large group of hooligans. He was surprised to see that the man was nearly a foot shorter than him, about 40 years younger than himself, and was very skinny. As security, I demand that this big group of primitive primates with chains get the hell on out, Ruckus yelled for everyone in the store to hear. Well, it look like you and this goofy old head over here got the same problem with thinking you can tell niggas what we finna do on phone him. He began to walk toward Ruckus while staring him intensely in his one working eye. I need you to understand that ain't how this shit work at all, gang. As he crept toward him, Ruckus pulled out his nunchucks and began swinging one of the Chukanbu forward in a counterclockwise motion in an effort to intimidate the young man, who appeared taller the closer he got to him. Before the entourage leader could take one more step, a strong smell of mace came from the direction of the mysterious small man. Ruckus closed his eyes and turned around as the mace slightly stung his iron face. Fuck! Ruckus heard the entourage leader scream along with the rest of his group. Yeah, no, 400 T's. I done told you Charlie ain't no prize fighter. I'm a surprise fighter, the small man yelled boastfully. The entourage began exiting the store while simultaneously groveling in pain. Now I done forgot what I came up in here to get, the mysterious man remarked. Well, you got the niggas out, so you did something right, Ruckus replied, still rubbing his eye in pain. However, nobody told your black ass to do my damn job, although I do appreciate it. I just can't stand seeing our young black man trying to portray this gangster image, the man said while looking in the direction of the jewelry store's exit. Yeah, that's why I gotta be rough with him, homie, because that's the only way they gonna hear. Well, I must be honest, I wasn't under the impression you gave a damn about these monkeys' well-being, Ruckus said with a slight glance of disappointment. That shit ain't never gonna change because the ignorant monkey nigga women make babies with individuals just like these jigaboos that just left, and the cycle continues and continues. Well, somebody gotta give a damn, homie, the man replied. Yeah, no, we all gotta deal with being black in America. We gotta hold each other accountable before we fuck around and run across a nigga like you. Ruckus replied with a light grunt as he looked toward the exit of the store. Well, actually, I'm not black, I suffer from revitiligo, Ruckus replied. The man chuckled as he continued to look in Ruckus's direction. Where you learn how to use that nunchuck shit, nigga? The man asked. With his one working eye, Ruckus glanced at the man intensely before recalling the troubling flashback. I still remember it like it was yesterday, he began. These here weapons was the only thing my loser coon father ever gave to me. For some reason, I held on to him even after he kicked me out the house. Now that the worthless nigga dead, I still can't help but think about him every time I pack him up every morning. He dropped his head lower and paused before he continued. But anywho, after he kicked me out, I held on to him. I kept walking and walking until I finally passed out and woke up in a great white man's arms. His name was Master Mast, and he had a kung fu studio. That was my real father. He began to press the nunchucks against his chest as he continued. He saw these here and told me he was gonna teach me the art of the nunchaku, and that's exactly what he did. I ain't gonna lie, homie, it sound like you done had a real hard life, the man said sympathetically. Ruckus picked his head up in response and immediately looked directly at the man. Well, I ain't one of these complaining niggas. I actually know how to get the fuck up and keep moving, unlike most of these coons that's still complaining about slavery. Hold on now, homie, the man interrupted with an uncomfortable chuckle. We don't want to get too carried away now.
Ruckus, do you copy?
Ruckus's supervisor said over his walkie-talkie. Ruckus copy, he replied.
1054, black jeans, black shirt, and black Charleston mask in the Macy's by the food court. Do you copy?
10-4. That sound like a monkey, so I'll make sure to spot him as soon as I can. Ruckus replied back before reattaching his walkie-talkie to his belt. He turned back to the man. Well, I want to thank you again for the help, although it was unwelcome. You seem like you got a little more sense than the average black ape, so you alright with me. He chuckled before beginning to walk toward the store's exit. For some reason, you remind me of my old friend, Robert. That's the only doctor I ever shed tears for when he died. What's your name, if you don't mind? Charlie, the man replied. Charlie Black. Ruckus reached out and shook his hand with a tight grip. Well, my name's Uncle Ruckus. No relation. Thank you for watching. Look out for part 4 of my series, The Death of Robert Freeman, releasing very soon. The playlist will be in the cards. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any new content on this channel. Goodbye, old fried chicken eating ass nigga.